I have another video for you. This one, well, you'll be able to see. Kevin, let's cue mommy up, shall we?
So this morning, the baby woke up and had some sort of violence in her heart. I don't know what it was, but she has been losing her mind all day. And it's interesting because I'm watching her lose her mind, and then I'm watching the preteen respond to that by trying to make her happy. And I have had to actively tell him, stop trying to make her feel better, stop responding to her tears. It's so interesting to see the conditioning of people responding to white girl tears happening so early. She's 5, and she's got an 11-year-old coming after her trying to make her feel better when she cries. We have to unlearn this whole business that white women crying is going to get them what they want in life, because that ain't it.
Ooh, that video was from TikTok, and I actually saw it on an account called Libs of TikTok, as in liberals of TikTok. So thank you, Libs of TikTok. You open my eyes to things almost every day that I never wanted to know were real. Where to start with this? That's lunatic. That's just lunatic. And I know, it's obvious to you that it's lunatic, and it's obvious to most people that it's lunatic. Why I think this is noteworthy is it's an example of how a cultural milieu, a certain era that is characterized by certain sensibilities, certain ways of thinking, certain ways of talking that become normalized and held up as the way you're supposed to have public dialogue, how that cultural milieu can make space so it can hold space, can make it acceptable for very antisocial and unacceptable behaviors to be paraded in public as virtuous acts. I find it very disturbing that this woman feels comfortable enough in our culture to videotape this and to upload it to her social media. She feels comfortable talking about her 5-year-old child this way. Even if you say, hey, Josh, that's really obvious. Anybody who sees that would see it's lunatic. I agree with you. I agree that most people would. I don't agree that everybody would. There are people out there, I've seen them praise this. I know that it's obvious to most people, but she feels comfortable. This is like, well, it's another version of what's going on with the proud parents of trans kids, right? When you see mothers, and it is almost always mothers, sometimes it's fathers. We've talked about a couple examples of that, but this seems to be largely something that abusive mothers do, not the favorite tactic of abusive fathers, who parade their children around. Jazz Jennings, for example, his mother, that woman who strikes me as psychopathic, who signed her family up to be filmed for 3 or 4 seasons on a show called I Am Jazz about her so-called transgender daughter. Jazz Jennings is a boy who was raised as a girl from the age of around 6 years old, if I remember correctly. And finally got what we used to call sex change surgery. And it was a botched sex change surgery. It took 4 surgeries to construct a false vagina for Jazz. And there was so little tissue left to work with because Jazz had been put on puberty blockers. You know, the puberty blockers that just press the pause button to give you time? No, they don't. He never developed full male genitalia. His penis never grew. He was left with a micro penis. So they had to make his false vagina out of stomach lining and pieces of his colon. And his family filmed this. And his mother parading him around. This is pageant parents. We look at the Ramseys, the John Benet Ramsey case, the little girl who used to be taken to pageants who ended up murdered and the murder was never solved. We can see this sort of stuff and say this is horrendous parenting, this is child abuse. But when you put the word trans in front of it, all of a sudden people can't see what is obvious Munchausen syndrome by proxy. This is literally making a healthy child sick with medical abuse that includes poisoning by chemicals that are not good for their body, all the way up to mutilating and permanent surgery that leaves them sterile. Suddenly we can't see this because trans is normalized. This is just helping trans kids. Well, this is the same thing here, because talking about white privilege and how racist the white heart is, or the psychopathic white mind, if you prefer, is so normalized that this woman feels comfortable. Listen to what she actually said. I pulled some of these out because I want to go through them. She's talking about a 5-year-old here who's crying. She woke up with some kind of violence in her heart. Violence? A 5-year-old crying is crying because she has violence in her heart? Are you sure it's not because she slept bad? Because she hasn't had her breakfast? Because she had a bad day at kindergarten? 5-year-olds cry. This little girl, I don't need to know who this little girl is to know that she doesn't have violence in her heart. And if she does, then it's no different than whatever violence lives in the heart of any 5-year-old. It's funny and it's not funny. Children, yeah, let me give you a few more. And she talks about her 11-year-old who appears to still have sympathy and empathy. I guess mother hasn't beat it out of him yet. I'm watching the preteen respond to that by trying to make her happy. And I have had to actively tell him, stop trying to make her feel better. Stop responding to her tears. My God, that's cold. My God, that's cold. It's not bad enough for this little girl that her mother won't respond and comfort her, but her 11-year-old brother is not allowed to. He's chastised for comforting her. Have a thought for this girl. Have a thought for her. Mommy says, it's interesting to see the conditioning of people responding to white girl tears happening so early. She's 5, and she's got an 11-year-old coming after her trying to make her feel better when she cries. We have to unlearn this whole business that white women crying is going to get them what they want in life, because that ain't it. Wow. This woman is stone dead inside. The cruelty and the coldness. How do you look at a child and have those emotions? This is not normal. And I saw a few people talking about this. Well, I saw many people talking about it. And a lot of people said, this is what wokeness does. This is what it does to people. And I understand where they're coming from, but I don't think it's quite that. I suspect this woman, has an abusive personality. Wokeness did not do this to her. She was like this to begin with. I don't think you can take a person with a normal level of emotion, a normal level of empathy, and a normal way of relating to other people and turn them into a cold, neglectful at best, and frankly, hostile parent to a 5-year-old crying. You can't take a normal person, give them an ideology, and then just have them sign up for that. That's not usually how it works. I think wokeness, I think critical race theory, I think critical racial consciousness, and I think our public discourse has created a stage on which this woman's abusive personality can display itself. This is a socially acceptable, to some degree, this is a socially acceptable way for her to be abusive.